What's going on, everybody? We're now out in the garage. We're going to start doing some work on Sylvia. Probably going to go through and start with the cold air intake, which is this whole section right there. We're going to go through and unbolt that, get that taken off, and get that set aside so this way we can focus on the actual motor itself to where we can prep for the spark plugs and all that stuff. More room to have, and then we can clean it up and all that jazz too. But we're going to take the intake manifold off, which is this black plastic piece right here, which plastic is good for weight savings, but it doesn't look cool. That's why they put a cover over it. But anyways, we're going to go through and get that taken off. We got to undo the actual harness portion of it, just for the air intake sensors and all that stuff. But we're going to get that done here in a moment, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, we're going to go through, like I said, we're going to take this whole assembly off right here. We're going to take the throttle body off, which is basically just these bolts. This whole thing comes off of the actual manifold itself. And then this whole shroud right here unbolts. There's actually a mounting point over here, and then that whole thing should lift off. We do have the sensor that's right here, and then we do have this tube that we have to go through and disconnect to. It's just basically screwed in to the tube right there, and then from there we're gonna probably take off the manifold. There is basically a mat in between, which we're gonna order some new mats because obviously these are definitely older, since this is originally from 2014. Sorry, my neighbor was driving past. We're gonna take the mats off because they're definitely fried from the engine getting up to very high temperatures from driving and whatnot. And then there's actually another piece that goes in the back over here that we're going to order some new ones. Probably get them off of eBay. I actually looked the back one up over here and it was like 20 bucks if that, which is very nice, but I need to get the part number for this one that's right here, which you'll see here in a little bit once we actually unbolt everything up. But we're gonna get that started and go from there. Okay, so the tools that we're going to need, and you're going to use some power tools. I like power tools. They make the job a lot quicker. Loosen up those hose clamps. This one came undone. That's okay. Just a little bit for now. And then just like normal, we'll go through and bag everything up when we're completely done, so this way we keep everything organized, because we like having organization. So that one's loose there. Okay. Now, it's been a while since these filters have been off and everything, so they're tight on there. Okay, so that's that one done. Okay, and so now this, we should be able to pull out, but let's go through and take this clip out first. This just pulls out. There we go. So we got that done. Now I did actually reroute this already just to see if the cord was going to be long enough, so this way I didn't have to try to rewrap everything, because it is a very short cord and I didn't want to have to mess with any of the actual harness portion of it. So it is long enough to actually go under the air intake, so I don't need to do that, so that's good. But obviously you can see here that this harness I'm going to have to wrap, just because of the heat tubing that goes around it. It's not even really heat tubing, it's just more cable tubing. It was so brittle that you can basically pinch it and it disintegrates because of how hot and how old it is. So we'll do that in the future, but we're not going to worry about that right this second. Okay, let's go through and get this unbolted here. Okay, so we got that one. Size. Okay, so we got the proper size. Loosen this. Okay, so 15 millimeter bolt down at the very bottom here, and then these are actually 10 millimeter nuts that actually thread onto the one that's actually part of the car itself. This was actually part of the original mounting points from the original airbox that was in here, but obviously we've since then taken it out to put the cold air intake in. So we got that. Now to remember how to get that off. That's gonna be too big. Yeah, it's too big for this. Smaller one. Switch off the 10 over to the 8 millimeter. These clamps are actually 8 millimeter heads, or you can use a flathead screwdriver, which obviously power tools are quicker. So we got that, and these are cinched down into that rubber because of, again, how old this stuff is. So got that unbolted. Let's do this one now. You can see how it's cinched down into the rubber there, right here. The original was not like that. We cinched it down real good. So go, that's off. Now for this, let's see if I can just, oh wow, look how dirty that is. That is insanely dirty. Good thing I'm planning on cleaning it up. It looks like this is actually a oil return is almost what it looks like, but I may have to invest in a cash can because that is very, very dirty there. But that's not a bad idea in general, so let's take that out now. Oh, you hear Ginger in the back. She's being obnoxious as usual. That's okay. We love Ginger. Okay, so this is a 10 millimeter for the throttle body here. We're just going to take these bolts out and disconnect the harness there and set that aside. Well, you can see that here's some more of that stuff that I was talking about. It just literally crumbles because of how old it is. Although to be fair, I also don't think it was meant to be high temperature cable management for that. But who knows? We just go with the flow, guys. There we go. Got that out. And you can see this is just covering the cables. This part's actually decent. That's surprising. But that's okay. We're going to replace all of this anyway. Now they do actually make a bigger throttle body for this motor. One of our other club members actually had it. His name was Craig. And his is, I can't remember the size of the millimeter, but with that setup that he has, it does allow for more input for the air, but it's not that far off from mine. So I haven't got to do a full-on trial of it to see how much of if it's a negligible difference or not. But so this is the throttle body. It smells like fuel like nobody's business, but you can see how it's partially open most of the time. It is electronically controlled using this module that's right here. All it does is it turns that flap that's in there to allow air to go into the engine down here, into the intake manifold, which at that point goes into the individual cylinders. And I loosened up these 5 bolts here. We're going to go through and try to get this manifold off and then disconnect all the lines that are attached to it. So we'll do that right now. Okay, so I've got most of the hoses off of there. This one here just full transparency because of how old and brittle it was. I did end up breaking this one here as I was trying to get it out of that connection, so I've got to get a new one of those, which those usually aren't too bad. They're just basically molded plastic hoses. And then there is the bolt that's back here. That doesn't come all the way out just because of the clearance issue there. But right now I'm working on, there's two tiny little bolts that are holding this whole piece on top here, which the only way to get to it is with this small little wrench, and there's two of them, one on each side. So I'm going to go through and get that done right now, and then we'll come back. Okay, so now we're going to go through and take this off. I was able to finagle that bolt that's in the back out, so now we should just be able to lift this up and out. There we go. So everybody knows what it looks like. That is the bottom of it. Obviously we still have the top there. The air inlet is right here. And it is pretty rich in there. It smells like fuel. But to be fair, I also do run this motor very, very hard. Obviously you can see that this here is actually a gasket to hold everything in place. But we're gonna go through and just, these are the parts that I was talking about. These are actually basically a heat shield of sorts. So it's basically like a foam pad that's supposed to be high temperature, high foam pad here. So, and then underneath of these we got the coil packs underneath. And so we gotta go through and now replace this hose since I broke it, because you can tell it's hard and it's brittle. It's super brittle. I mean, it just shattered. Like, I barely even moved it. I was trying to get it to spin just a little bit and it just sheared right off. But took no effort for it to break, but we'll put it all back together, that's for sure. Anyways, that's what it looks like. And I think I'm gonna be done for tonight. I'm gonna do some research on these here, see if I can get some replacements ordered. Might go through and clean it up a little bit, but one thing that we are going to make sure that we do is we go through and cover this whole section right here with something. I'm probably going to use a piece of cardboard or something just to where no dirt or dust or anything's going to get in there to cause any problems with the internal parts. But we're going to go through and stop the video here, and you guys have a good night. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment, and if you guys feel like it, go through and subscribe and hit that bell notification, so this way you guys can keep up to date on the content that we're doing. But this channel is definitely going to have a lot more content coming through, because I plan on doing a lot in here and a lot inside of the car as well. But you guys have a good night. We'll talk later.